like to welcome all today a much anticipated talk about digital transformation. In light of the fourth industrial revolution, we are witnessing a fast changing world. COVID-19 pandemic even further accelerated it. Satya Nadella said, we witnessed 2 years compacted in 3 months of digital transformation. And I think it was further impacted with the ripple and butterfly effect. Digital transformation is no longer an option. It's a make or break in this digital age. Technology now becomes inseparable in our lives. Let me introduce myself. I am Rudy Shushani, a DX expert and a speaker at the talk show, DX Talks, and I have the honor to be moderator of this session organized by USAID-led team and Veritech. I'd like to thank all attendees for joining us for the next hour. Before we start, let me do some housekeeping. Let's have this session as much interactive as it can be. Please post your questions in the Q&A section. We will have a dedicated time around 20 minutes for them. Some of you did share with us your questions upon registration, and we will surely address them during our session. And we will be posting links also for USAID-led websites and material, so you can actually benefit and have value more. I invite you to take note of them for your reference, and this session will be recorded. That said, allow me to introduce Mr. Ibrahim Basha. Mr. Basha is lead project deputy chief of party. He will be introducing the US-led project. Mr. Ibrahim. Unmute.
Sorry, guys. Thank you, Rudy, for the introduction, and I thank you, Fernando, for being with us. Welcome everyone who's participating in this webinar. I'm going to speak between Arabic and English, mixed between both for our audience. I'm here to introduce the project, which is funded by USAID. So you companies can understand how can you apply for our support. My name, as said, Rudy Ibrahim Basha. I'm the Deputy Managing Director for LED Project, Lebanon Enterprise Development Project. It is a project funded by USAID, the US Agency for International Development. المشروع بيهدف لدعم الشركات الخاصة بلبنان بجميع المناطق اللبنانية بجميع القطاعات بطريقة تقنية technical assistance لنقدر نساعدهم to overcome أي gap موجود عندهم ليقدروا يزيدوا من كفاءة الإنتاج تبعهم وقوة الإنتاج تبعهم ليقدر يكون في مبيعات أكثر بالخدمات أو بالproducts, especially in exporting outside of Lebanon, so they can have better growth and eventually reach a point where they can hire more Lebanese. هلا who we are. نحن Chemonics, one of USAID implementers. We are funded by USAID to support the Lebanese companies, as I said. Our mission is very simple, to increase the growth of the companies. We work through subcontractors, hence Veritech, our first subcontractor that works in all Lebanese area except the north. The north is handled by Biyat, which is another subcontractor. Through them, we have the business advisors that maybe some of you companies التقيتوا فيهم وبتعرفوهم. The BAs usually sit with the company individually, separately, to discuss and analyze شو معقول يكون الجاب اللي عندهم technically that they need, knowing their market based or buyer, for example of technical assistance اللي نحن بنقدمها لأنه ما في شيء محدد. هي فيها تكون certificates مثل ISO، مثل حسب، مثل جاب certification، أو فيها تكون مثل تكنولوجي مثل هيدا الويبينار هلا اللي عم نحكي عنه حيكون في تفاصيل أكثر. فينا نقدم نحن مساعدة مجانية، بندفع نحن كلفة التكنيكال اسيستنس عبر الكونسلتنت أو الكونسلتنسي فيرم اللي ببروسس بيجوا لعندكم أكثر من شخص للشركة يقيم الاحتياج اللي معقول يكون موجود، اللي هو الكلاينت عاده او الماركت بده اياه كرمال يزيد الانتاجيه او المبيعات ليكون في بعدين هايرينج فور مور ليبانيز. انا حابب كمان لكم انه احنا بنشتغل من 2017 صيفيه 2017 and we have almost 5 years. باقي سنتين بالبروجكت. ساعدنا لحد هلا اكثر من 250 شركه، ساعدنا بخلق اكثر من 1000 وظيفه. ومثل ما قلت المساعده هي فيها تكون باي قطاعات موجوده، فيها تكون تكنولوجي او غير تكنولوجي. في ناس بيكون عم يكبروا كشركات خاصه وبيكونوا بدهم يعيدوا هيكله الشركه عندهم، او سيلز او ماركتينج او ويب سايتس او اي ار بيز او اي كان سيرتيفيكيشن موجوده. نحن هون لنساعد. بالشات حنعمل اد لللينك اللي الشركات فيها تقدم عليه كابلكيشن، وبعدين فروم اور سايد نحن وي سند بي اي يمكن من باريتك او من بيات ليقعد معكم كشركات يتحدث معكم، نقدر نفهم شو معقول تكون العقبه الموجوده تكنيكلي لنقدر نحن وياكم نتخطاها ونساعد عبر التكنيكال اسيستنس. في عندنا اكثر من كومبوننت ثاني اللي هو بزنس انيبلينج انفايرمنت وجرانتس، ولكن هن كومبوننت اصغر اللي حيلا شركه او مؤسسه فيها تكون تساعد بتحسين بيئه العمل بلبنان، فيها يقدموا على منحه كمان موجوده بالويب سايت تبعنا بالسوشيال ميديا. ما بدي اخذ من وقتكم كثير. في الكيو اند اي فينا كمان تسالوني اسئله وفيني جاوب عليهم. على رودي اللي حيكون هلا يقدم فرناندو واللي حنحكي فورورد عن الويبينار. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibrahim. كمان لك. It was very valuable. With that, let's start with our guest and main speaker, the one that we've been all waiting for, Mr. Fernando Polo. Let me introduce Mr. Fernando. Fernando is a co-founder and CEO of Good Rebels, a digital strategy and creative company working with clients like Toyota, IKEA, LG, Abbott, and Lexus, and many more. Fernando is an associate professor at IE Business School, lecturer with numerous universities, to name a few: Sussex University, École Hôtelière de Lausanne, international speaker at seminars and conferences. He talks about digital transformation and how this can help companies, culture, and leadership. He is the author of a best-selling book, Socialholic, and also he's creating entrepreneurs in the digital age. Fernando has a degree in industrial engineering from Madrid and a master in commercial management and marketing from Fondation EPF Paris. He worked with IBM, formerly PwC. Let's welcome all Mr. Fernando. Fernando, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rudy. I would like to think that the floor is mine, but in the end, there's no floor in this meeting today. I would be so much happier if I could be with you in your lovely country today, sharing this moment with you in a more close environment, okay? But well, let's also take advantage of digital tools to talk about something that I think it's so important and now more important than ever in terms of how companies can benefit from this digital revolution. But well, talking about the digital revolution that started some 25 years ago, it might sound like a bit strange, but in the end, this weird year, 2020, has demonstrated us that digital doesn't stop evolving. And I really wonder how much this will last, the capability of digital tools to surprise us. And let me share with you some slides I prepared for this presentation, and so that we can start talking about I hope that you can see my screen and you can see the slides. Great, thank you, Rudy. So we say that digital is eating the world. It's a famous phrase from digital entrepreneurs. And 10 years ago, he said that software is eating the world. And 10 years ago, we didn't even think that the biggest companies in the world would be technological companies, but now it's happening. And I'd like to today to kind of create the idea or foster the idea that smaller companies in Lebanon also, they can take advantage of these technologies to get better at understanding their customers, at increasing their sales, and creating loyalty, okay, and increasing the lifetime value of their customers, okay. Let's start with this reflection. Some 20 years ago, I co-founded a company called Dice la Red in Spanish. I co-founded this company to listen to what people were saying, writing on the internet. Okay, so we started working with online forums because in 2001, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter. Okay, it was mostly digital media and online forums. And we gather this information, we do some text mining with our software, and then we visualize as you can see here, we visualize some of this analysis that we were doing with software, okay? So at some point in time, I remember that we went to visit some academic professors in Spain to ask them if it was possible that artificial intelligence and software algorithms were able to read text as human beings read text, so that software was able to interpret or was able to understand how people express their opinions online. And I remember that Angel Navia, the professor who was with us, he told me, Fernando, think about it. If a robot could read as a human being, it could also write as a human being. And I said, wow, it's true. I mean, and this is scary, a robot writing like a human being. So at some point in time, I said, okay, I prefer that robots don't read as human beings. But it's amazing because this computational scientist, one of the well-renowned computational scientists in terms of text mining in the whole world, he told me in 2003 that robots won't read and write as human beings. How is it possible that hardly 10 years afterwards, robots were writing as human beings? Okay, I'm sure that you've heard about GP3. Maybe you are not that aware that many of the text that we are, the articles that we are reading right now are being written by robots. Okay, so how is it possible that this thing happened so fast? Well, there's a lot of explanations, including the rise of the neural networks algorithms in the field of artificial intelligence from 2005 to 2010, okay? But apart from that, I would simplify the idea saying the problem we have as human beings is that exponential growth as the COVID pandemic has shown us, it's so difficult to understand exponential growth, okay? It feels like nothing is changing from one day to another, from one year to another, and then all of a sudden, something changes dramatically, okay? And that's what happened in I'm sure that you are aware, maybe some of you have heard of the Moore's law, the inventor of one of the founders of Intel. He predicted that the computational power will be doubling its capacity every 18 months. Okay, so that's why this is an exponential growth. And that's, in fact, what we are facing as companies, as organizations, when we, in fact, we try to follow the pace of technology, that it's going exponentially, then people, we, citizens, consumers, human beings, we are adopting this technology very fast, and then organizations are lagging behind. Okay, so we feel like, or it feels like, we are always playing catch up, that we are always too late in adopting new technologies. Okay, I want to tell you about how we work on digital transformation, but previously I want to explain a bit more what we do as an organization. Okay, so Good Rebels is mostly a digital consultancy or agency working from a creative point of view, or more of a strategic point of view, with big companies. Okay, so we do strategy and research, we do research online, we create digital products using UX and UI design methodologies, we do technology development. We also work with our clients to foster engagement with their customers, with their communities, through social media and social networks. And of course, also we buy digital advertising to increase traffic to the e-commerce sites or the websites. Okay, but I'm telling you this because we mostly work with big clients, but we are a small company. There are 120 Good Rebels in 4 offices around in Spain, in England, and in Mexico. And we are a small company, and we also use these tools for our own benefit. Okay, so we work with big clients, but I'm gonna try to focus on how smaller companies can use these technologies in an easy way. Okay, so when we talk about digital transformation, we normally use this kind of framework. We say, look, companies that are facing this trend, they should organize their work in 3 different areas. One area that is the most attractive area would be the digital customer. So how customers are evolving in terms of using these tools to engage with media, with news, with companies, with brands, etc. Okay, we focus on a different area, that it's how can we use these new technologies to find new business models. Okay, so how can we reinvent ourselves using these technologies, or allowing these technologies to find new channels, to develop new products, new services that couldn't be delivered prior to the digital age. Okay, and then there's a third area of work that has to do with the internal digital transformation for companies. Okay, so how do we evolve our culture, our leadership style? How do we become more agile as an organization? And also, how do we become more data driven? That means, how do we get data and foster a culture of decision taking based on data and not just intuitions? Okay, so we are going to talk mostly today about the digital customer and how companies can use digital marketing, for example, to increase lifetime value of their customers, or to sell more, okay, or to access new countries and new markets. But we will also have an example of a small company using e-commerce to become a multinational. And at the very end of the presentation, I will just mention 1 or 2 ideas to think out of the box when it comes to becoming more digital as a company. Okay, first of all, so we'll start with the new customer journey. This drawing here would represent more or less the journey of a passenger in an airport, okay? More and more, the touch points that we are experiencing through our journey in a real, the preparation of a real trip, the touch points are more digital. We are having our smartphones with us. We are receiving notifications. We are receiving notifications from the airline we fly with, if there's a delay in our flight. And I know that it's quite sad talking about this area and this industry in this moment, because they are really suffering. And I am quite concerned because I am a big fan, for example, of EasyJet. And I fly Gatwick to Madrid, London Gatwick to Madrid. I used to fly nearly every week, and now I am staying mostly at home and hoping that EasyJet will overcome this crisis. Okay, but what I want to focus on is that we as customers, we are having more digital touch points in our relationship with brands and companies than ever. And my point here is that if you look at how we depict the new consumer infinity loop, this kind of, okay, we get to know a new brand, a new service, we evaluate this product, we decide to make a purchase, we enjoy the product, and maybe we become more, we become emotionally bind to, we create this emotional bond with these products or services, and then we become advocates for these products. Okay, some 10 years ago, McKinsey already said in a huge research all around the world, he already declared that 2/3 of the touch points that influence purchase decisions aren't generated by companies. They are created by other consumers or other entities. So the thing here is that only 1/3 of the touch points that are influencing our decisions are controlled by the organizations, by the companies. Okay, so how do we work in this new era where we have access to so much information? We are an informed consumer. We can just check what people are saying about our product or about a product we want to buy in online forums, on Twitter. We can ask our friends using WhatsApp, etc. Okay, so let me just show you an example that we, it's a nice example to try to, just to show how companies are trying to change the way they foster advocacy and how they understand that recommendations from other customers are more powerful than any advertising campaign. This is an example, a video case of a campaign we created for Toyota in Spain, and I think that it illustrates very well what I'm talking about. Okay, I hope that you can hear the sound well. I've already checked it before. Let's go.
Where are the young people? Watching TV? Reading magazines? Watching commercials non-stop? No, they're where it's cool, flirting on WhatsApp. That's why it's not surprising that Spain is a European country with the highest WhatsApp penetration. We knew where our public was. We just had to rev them up for the new Toyota Aygo. But how could we use a social media platform that is not advertising friendly, with creativity, innovation, and a bit of caution? This is how Wu and Aygo was born, a challenge for young people to do what they know how to do best, flirt, but with a car. We developed the first platform that allowed the management of mass amounts of conversations on WhatsApp. We used it over 2 weeks, during which Aygo showed off its sexiest parts. People went crazy! More than 16,000 suitors, 700 comments an hour, and dozens of appearances in media. 9,000 declarations of love using pictures, songs and videos that clearly demonstrated the need for these young people to show their creativity. More than 89,000 messages with peaks of up to 300 simultaneous conversations caused WhatsApp to drop our connection several times. Luckily, nobody can stop love. On Valentine's Day, Toyota Aygo declared its love for Paula. Of the 30 million impressions, 15 million were from the brand's fans, increasing share of voice from 5.9 to 36%. We demonstrated that the best campaigns aren't the ones done by a brand, but by people.
But I don't
With
want
regards to WhatsApp and advertising, Jan, Brian, it won't happen again. We promise.
I forgot that there was a final closure of the video because, of course, this campaign was a bit disruptive, and WhatsApp cut our service several times. Okay, and we have to be begging them that please let us go ahead. It will finish soon. Okay, but I don't want you to feel or to think that this is something that only big companies can do. Okay, I want you to introduce this nice example of an e-commerce site that has become a reference in Spain, for example. We don't work with them. I know Victor, and I had a deep conversation with them also to share this case study with you today to understand a bit more how they do, what they do, how they promote their products, etc. So this is an e-commerce site that sells craft products. Okay, so they are a clear niche provider or e-commerce. They can compete against Amazon because they work with products that selling in big volumes in Amazon maybe don't pay. So they are able to, the story of Victor, let me just show you Victor here. Victor is in his warehouse here. He has a highly automated warehouse because he's quite conscious that every order they receive has to be carefully taken care of so that the price of delivering the order doesn't exceed the final price paid by the client. Okay, so they started in 2010. They just created, they bought a domain, my little shop of craft shop or something like that. But they bought this domain in Spanish, and they started because, of course, Victor has had a connection with this world. Okay, his father had a small shop in the center of León, who's a city north from Madrid in Spain. Small city, 100,000 people living in León. And so they had a shop, and they had been selling craft products for years. And Victor came back from a failed venture in Mexico. He came back and he said, I want to start an online e-commerce, an online store. And I'm gonna use your products. We are gonna use our warehouse. We are gonna build a new warehouse. And they started in 2010. Victor says that it took 10 months to receive the first order on the online shop. Okay, and at some point in time, they realized that yeah, they were able to sell. Now Craftelier, the name of a website for European countries, not for Spain. Craftelier sells more than 700 orders per day. Okay, they are growing 50% year on year. And they started with a very simple website built upon an open source CMS, that it's Magento. I'm sure that many of you are aware or familiar with this software, okay?
Fernando, I just want to give you the 10-minute mark.
Thank you. So the thing here is that Victor was quite, I mean, he knew that it was important, the technology, but it was more important already the things that the family had in place when they decided to go online. That's very important because, in fact, Victor says that the technology, the website is not very good, but they really, they've achieved this amazing growth by focusing on what they could do and then learning progressively, okay, step by step about the digital world. So for example, they now use a CRM and marketing automation tool, a Polish software called Sales Manago. Okay, Sales Manago is a CRM to manage all the data from customers and also to automate some of the interactions through email. Email is the most important platform for Craftelier. So they sell approximately 50% of the orders from emails they send to existing clients. Okay, so the customers are recurring customers. They come back, they buy. I think that the average number of items in an order is 10. Okay, and 60 euros, approximately 60 euros per order. So they use this Sales Manago to manage on email communications, but they also buy digital advertising. They are focusing on SEM. So they are buying mostly advertising from Google to promote their products and their store. Once people start, when people are looking for specific products on Google, okay, that's what works best for them. But there are other e-commerce sites that are using, for example, affiliation, that it's paying people to refer to your online store, okay? And also, they are using digital influencers. They say that in their realm of activity, in this craft area, there are many influencers, but they don't pay these influencers. For example, when they start a new country, they enter a new market, they contact some of these influencers and they try to make some deals with them that make them feel special. So they don't pay money, but they are giving them special products, or they are giving them some special status, okay? And of course, on social media, they do a lot of things and they do it very well. And it's just a small team. I mean, I would say Victor and some other one person, with some people helping with the languages, because they are serving European countries in different languages, okay? So if you look at their YouTube channel, you will see that they are creating online videos, and they are also redistributing some of the videos from some of the providers. They are using Twitter to manage customer service, and they are using Instagram mostly to engage with their customers. And one specific message I wanted to bring in here is that they are mostly promoting that their current customers, they talk about their products. So they started sending a lollipop in the boxes, and people started putting pictures of them opening the boxes and showing the lollipop. And that's so important. So it's not, you don't have to be Toyota to be creative and think out of the box and say, okay, how can I promote my customers to become advocates, to become better, to become my best advocates, okay? Let me show you another example of, okay, because this is important, because it's not just about using social media, it's also that there will be tools that will help us manage, for example, customer service. This is an example I want just to go through very quickly, that how chatbots, artificial intelligence applied to customer interactions, customer service, is getting better. This technology is getting better especially when they are applied to a very specific task. This is something we've done with Lexus for a very specific task, that is bringing people who are interested in some of these of their models, of their car models, getting people to book a test drive. So this artificial intelligence is learning how to get better at interacting so that people finally, they book a test drive in the London, Greater London area, okay? And another example, so that we can try to have examples from different industries, would be ourselves. Good Rebels started a blog in 2005, and because it was very early in at the time, it was an early mover advantage. People started reading our blog, and we were talking about marketing, and we were talking about digital marketing and the new Web 2.0. We started creating content, and this content has brought thousands of visits and many people who knows that a company exists and what we do and the services we do, because we spend and we invest time and effort in creating relevant content for our potential customers or potential clients, okay? And we use, like many other B2B companies, we use a mix of inbound activities like creating content, like giving webinars, etc., with some outbound activity that we have people in the sales area reaching out and contacting potential prospects, and also buying some digital advertising to get people in the loop and then to generate leads and nurturing these leads, okay? We will talk a bit more about this on the question and answers session, because I'm sure that many of you are in different industries. Some of you could be more interested in this. Some others could be more interested in e-commerce. So let's go now and talk about it in the question and answer session, okay? Finally, just to remind you, this is our framework. We talk about 3 different areas. We focused on the digital customer, okay? We talk about some, the part of the digital business, the e-commerce part. And we will have a final word for the idea of culture and leadership. Let me just give you 5 final recommendations, plus 2 ways to fast track your digitalization, okay? So I want to give you 5 things that you can do tomorrow, right away. I mean, so you won't have any excuse. It's after attending this webinar, you haven't, you don't try anything new tomorrow, okay? I hope that it makes you think. First of all, recommendation, start using Slack or Basecamp. That is more of a project management tool, quite simple for team engagement, okay? So stop using email and, or at least start using these kind of tools where the communication is more open. People will have access to open conversations, and this idea of opening the conversation inside your company, sorry, would be great for team engagement. We'll talk about this later on. Slack has a free modality, okay? So the only thing is that you will lose your history of the messages. You can buy Slack. I mean, you can pay for users. It's about $5 per user per month. Basecamp has a different pricing strategy. It's also quite interesting. Second recommendation, write your first number of a new newsletter tomorrow. Okay, so start a newsletter. If you don't do it now, if you don't do it already, start it tomorrow. If I was to start, I mean, if in 2005, we decided to create a blog. In 2020, I would recommend someone to say, forget about blogs for the moment, start your newsletter, and then we'll talk about blogs, okay? Newsletters, you send it to your clients, you send it to your friends, and then you have a clear landing page where you promote people to subscribe to your newsletter, okay? Third thing that you could do right away tomorrow, instead of having all your contacts on your personal agenda, whatever, use marketing CRM plus marketing automation tool. There are hundreds in the market. There are different prices. There's no perfect solution for anybody, but there are many different solutions that could fit to your initial needs. Okay, so find a tool like MailChimp or a tool like Sales Manago if you have an e-commerce software, and start using these tools to think how you could automate some of the messages you are sending to your prospects, to your clients, and then especially start having everything organized in a place where everybody can access. Okay. Fourth recommendation, something that you could do right away. If you haven't done it yet, I guess that most of you are already doing this. And I'm talking for very small companies. Some of you, I'm sure that you are here for, I mean, and that you are members of bigger companies, and some of this is already being done by your marketing department. Okay, buy $200 of Google AdWords and get obsessed with analytics. Okay, so start exploring how people react to your messages, and this idea of trying to get the data and to become obsessed with data and how try new things and test different possibilities. Okay, and fifth, write, comment, like on LinkedIn, and maybe try LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Okay, Sales Navigator has a month, one free trial for 1 month. I think it's more or less $100 per month after that. It's expensive. It might be not worth for you. It might be not worth it, okay? But try it and do more activity. Start doing more activity on LinkedIn, okay? The final recommendations. Subscribe to Lebanon Enterprise Development Project, okay? I'm sure that they can help you to understand and to navigate these digital waters, okay? And of course, my final recommendation, think out of the box when it comes to your company in terms of management, people management, and leadership, okay? These type of structures, more hierarchical, were designed for efficiency, not for innovation. I am an industrial engineer. I was trained 30 years ago at university to tell people what to do. The problem when you start telling people what to do is that you don't let them explore other ways of doing things. And maybe the collective intelligence of your company is being wasted. So please, please, please rethink. This is a very difficult journey. It started for me, it started in 2007 when I read one book by Gary Hamel called The Future of Management. I recommend you to read this book, that it's a book my brother and I wrote in 2015 to explain the journey of our company. Okay, we talk about open leadership. We talk about how digital tools can promote transparency in the organization. Okay, how transparency can become a force for good, and how transparency builds trust. And trust is one of the most important currencies inside an organization, inside a company, okay? Finally, we like to talk about, I don't finish any intervention talking about our mantra, our purpose, that it's promoting and inspiring companies to become more human-centered. One of the mantras in the digital world is user first. One of the mantras that I would recommend here is don't stop with the user. Think human beings first. If you think about your customers and you obsess about how to delight them in useful ways, and if you think about your coworkers and employees, and if you think about the wider society, what we call the citizen journey, I'm sure that your company will become much more relevant for all the stakeholders, and that will help you sell more, overcome the huge crisis that Lebanon is experiencing right now, and also overcome the huge threat that the COVID pandemic has delivered everywhere in the world. Thank you very much for being there. I use normally a QR code if you want to download these slides. Some of these slides have presenter notes, okay? One example of how to use digital tools in your organization. We are using Google Slides, okay? Google Slides are one of the best tools to collaborate if you have a professional service firm, a consulting, whatever, working together on these slides with a number of people, it's an amazing fit and an amazing shift for companies, knowledge companies like ours. Okay, thank you very much for being there.
Thank you, Fernando.
Rudy, I'm all yours.
Thank you, Fernando. I think you touched base on our Lebanese problems a lot, and then you gave us a lot of tips, especially the 5+2 tip, which I think was an excellent part. And taking the example of the Spanish company, which came out, I think, after the economical crisis, and I know Spain was in a very bad economical crisis. And I think innovation also, a lot of innovation started after the economical crisis. So thank you for giving all of this related info. And with that, I'll start the first question from Amir from the audience. We received hundreds of questions, so please bear with us. The first question, I think you should have, you did mention about it, and then now the question will highlight more, which is about spreading the culture of digitization between customers. And I would say, I think first it has to start with the company and then with customers. Please elaborate more.
Yeah, well, it's important. I mean, I'd say that based on my experience in the digital world, most companies start this journey because of the clients, because of the customers. They are forced. I mean, in the hospitality industry and the travel industry, digitalization started very early, and they were forced to do this. Okay, so even if we think that theoretically it should start internally and then going to the customer, I'd say that most companies that I've known in the past, they've started by the customer. Okay, but of course the problem with this is that I've known many digital companies who became digital, imagine, in the year 2000, and that lost their advantage in 2010. Why? Because they focused on tools, they focused on software, they focused on transactions and e-commerce, but they forgot that innovation, it's about people. It's about people willing to innovate. How do you foster this culture of innovation, this culture of willing to make mistakes, willing to break things? Well, this is a cultural thing inside a company. And what we say is that we promote digital values. And when we talk about digital values, we try to explain, look, if you look at the original communities, digital communities in the 90s, so the hacker ethics or the software programmers and online communities, you look at them and you feel like, first of all, there are no formal hierarchies. There are no formal bosses. People, they engage in the conversations they like. They build knowledge, talking to each other in a Socratic way. They foster and they, let's say, they reward meritocracy. And that's how companies should try to build and to bring in these digital values inside the company. So my first recommendation there will be for all the founders, the owners that we have today here in the audience, for all the high executives in smaller or bigger companies, please do this yourself first, and that's why we recommended our clients to start playing on Instagram, to start playing on LinkedIn, to create a blog for themselves. Because once you start creating a blog, you understand the mechanics of the digital interaction, okay?
I think sharing data and creating content is today what drives us all. And I will add to you, if you're not creating content, start today. I think today is your chance. And then I'll take another question, which is in the state of Lebanon, taking Lebanon as a case. how can the affected small and medium businesses, SMEs in Lebanon, adopt digital transformation model using technology, such as e-commerce and other channels, to maybe reinvent themselves and re-accelerate growth? And I will add to that, if you can slightly just recommend some maybe tools also to help on this. And then I know you have some blogs on this, so.
Yeah. So I mentioned some technology, some software tools along my presentation, and I'd like to say, for example, I know that it's, and please help me with the question if you think that I'm going, what I'm thinking of wrong, but it's, for example, I would like to restate the importance of using open tools to communicate with customers or to communicate with your own team, okay? So when you decide to send an email, the problem with email is not dead. In fact, I'm recommending to start a newsletter, so through email, okay? But
you mentioned before Slack, for example.
Yeah, I mentioned Slack, but if you don't even, there's another tool that my daughters, they use with their friends called Discord, Discord, D-I-S-C-H-O-R-D, Discord. I will put it on the chat, okay? And this is more or less a clone, a Slack clone, okay? Why? Oh, you could also use, of course, Microsoft Teams. I don't use Microsoft Teams. I don't know exactly how well it compares to Slack. But Slack, the importance of Slack is that if we create, for example, you send an email and you decide that you're going to copy in this email 10 people. Some of these people, they are not interested in the email. I swear to you, some of them are not interested. They are not going to read it. But curiously, some of the people in your company could be interested in this email. So when you decide who to send this message to, you are closing the opportunities of innovation and collaboration. If I send a message to a group, first of all, I let people subscribe to these channels. You use channels on Slack. You let people voluntarily subscribe to these channels if they are interested, okay? And then you will let other people, I mean, I have some time, instead of reading Facebook and silly fake news, I took a look at my Slack, and I feel that I see that a colleague of ours in a different department, or if the company is smaller, they've started doing this, and I can contribute to that, okay? So this open space to let people, of course, it can also be overwhelming. We cannot expect everybody to be aware of everything we are publishing every day, but you learn how to use these tools and to promote open collaboration between people, okay? That's important. Slack, it would be a great tool. I would recommend, again, Basecamp, because it helps even better for some specific ideas like project management. So an easy to do, collaborative to do management tool. And then,
marketing,
yeah, and for marketing, I would say I love MailChimp. Okay, we as a company, we use Salesforce and we use Pardot. Okay, Pardot is like the marketing automation part of module of Salesforce. Okay, but we also use MailChimp, and we use MailChimp to manage email and sending email to our cluster, to our customers, to our database, so people subscribe to our blog, etc. And especially when you, and I would say another tool, please, that's very important, HubSpot. Okay, HubSpot has also become a kind of a one-stop shop software for marketing and managing clients. Okay, so HubSpot also started as a, they coined the term inbound marketing. Okay, so first of all, they have a lot of very interesting content. They've applied their own, they preach to, I mean, they lead with the example, because they create amazing content And through this content, they start all the funnel to start sharing content. At some point in time, you will identify who's interested in your content. For example, my recommendation would be, if you start sharing content, don't do everything under subscription. So for example, I share a white paper, but if you, why should I read your white paper? Why should I leave my data to you to download this white paper? So first, you have to create some trust. You have to, people, they should say, okay, these guys are interesting. So that you do it with open content. And then in the funnel, at some point in time, a tool like HubSpot would let you say, okay, this person has come twice in this week, because they are identifying this through cookies, through digital footprints. So, they know that this guy is the same guy and they are visiting our website. Now is the moment to ask for the data. Okay, so that's so important.
5 more minutes for questions.
5 more minutes.
I will take another 2 quickly. How can SMEs adopt digital leadership and strategy to empower the digital transformation, noting they have small budget? And how can somehow program like LED, can we do something with them? Can it help with them?
I think that it's very important for you, because I know this from my, I'm a Spanish professional, and I know that our countries are quite close in many ways. We feel sometimes that this is more Anglo-Saxon, that this is more, there are others who invent all this. Okay, so it feels like this is not our thing. So I would say that it's so important that you connect with your ecosystem, with your network in Lebanon, so that you can access to examples of other companies doing similar to you, or that have done the same thing before. Because you will believe that if a Lebanese company has done this, I can also do it, okay? So that's why I think it's so important that a program like LED exists, because it's not just a professor coming from America or wherever. It's you understanding that you can do this in your context, okay? So that's why I feel that digital leadership has also, I cannot convince you to become a digital leader. You have to convince you by yourself. And this is by reading, by having conversations with people and interesting people, but it's a journey.
Okay, thank you. Brahim has an intervention, and then we'll go to try to pass another 2, maybe 1, we'll see.
Yes, so concerning LED support for companies, definitely companies can apply to us. I cannot answer yes or no. We can support the company depending on their specific needs. So our business advisors, after you apply, will definitely get in contact with you. They will sit with you to understand what is the technical assistance that you would need in digitalization, and it will lead into increase in your sales, in services or products, meaning you will reach a better growth and you are willing to invest more, and then lead to hiring Lebanese. If these criteria exist, then definitely we are here to support, and we are here to have more and more companies reach the ultimate goal of doing better, sustaining their businesses under these circumstances that exist in Lebanon, tough times. So we are here to support not only in creating growth, but also in sustaining businesses that already exist, that they wanted to make the shift, that I think right now is the right time to go into digitalization, especially with the COVID and all the lockdowns that are happening around the world.
Brahim, a quick question, yes or no? Do you support startups?
We support established companies that are registered, but even if they are registered for like a short period of time, like a startup, but they need to be registered and they have the potential.
Thank you, Brahim. I think, do you mind sharing the forms and also again the social media so people can connect more? I'm gonna try to squeeze another 2 questions if the time will allow. You mentioned 5 steps. Let me take you on a challenge. What are the top 3 tactics, quick wins to start your journey into digital transformation, to go into maybe e-commerce, to go into something, you know, you have to start. We understand the strategy, we understand the business case, you know, how can they now go to a digital platform or move digitally?
I'd say, so you mentioned one. Okay, so learn to generate content, but efficiently. Okay, that's very important. There are lots and lots of tons of content in the world right now. So you have to learn to do this efficiently. And this is a practice. I would recommend that you start yourself writing quick updates on LinkedIn, starting a blog, starting a newsletter. So one, generate content efficiently. It's important to be efficiently, okay? Because you don't have lots of money to create and to hire an agency and to create content. Second, use the content to create, to link and to create and to connections, business connections. So use the content to establish these connections and then to nurture these connections. Don't tell me again that you would be my best provider for a specific thing. From time to time, you can nudge me. You can send me a message and say, look, I've written this message. Maybe you would be interested in reading because you told me that you were interested in agricultural mechanisms to for digital transformation, whatever. Okay, and I wrote a specific message for this. And then the third one, so generate content efficiently. Second, use this content to establish and nurture business connections, but not just commercial connections. And third, become obsessed about data. Measure, use digital tools, but go directly to the statistics, where you can find what people do, how people react to your messages, etc., etc. Okay, so get obsessed about data. Learn to play with data. Learn to do something. I mean, create an Excel spreadsheet and feel how they relate when you talk about this, and maybe there was some. So getting obsessed about data, measuring, and also try new things, gather data, and refine. Okay, this idea of becoming more agile, it's about trying new things without being scared of failure, doing it fast, efficiently, quick, gather data, and do it better next time. So three things: content, efficient content, nurturing connections, and obsessed about data or becoming data-driven.
Thank you for that, Fernando. Just trying to see if there's any more or further questions. Some of the questions that we received early on is related to the global economic and, you know, how they can try to go out financially. They don't, there's a problem in money. How can they advertise online? You know, can you advertise? Do you have to pay money to advertise? I think you mentioned some of these things, but let's conclude on the step of maybe you can further add, do we need to really spend money? Or first, I think I answered one of the questions, maybe start with content, as you say, and then from there on, drive more later on the ads. If you have a final intervention on that topic to give them an advice, and then we'll conclude from there.
Not sure if I can elaborate much further in terms of, I mean, I'm not repeating myself, but I'd like to add one very important thing that has to do with culture. Sorry, Reddy, because I'm changing the topic a bit, but it has to do with the same. And when we work with clients, one of the things that clients really appreciate always is transparency. In this world of digital advertising, there's been a lot of fraud and a lot of click fraud. Or, for example, I spend money and they tell me that I'm getting impressions, but how can I be so sure? So as a recommendation would be, you have to learn to spend money and to take data continuously so that you learn what works and what works and what doesn't. But let me reflect on a final word on radical transparency. Our company, I know that this is going to sound a bit extreme, but our company decided internally to open our financial figures to everybody in the company. We decided to open our performance appraisals. So we evaluate each other 360 degrees, okay? And we decided to make this information public so that everybody can know and access what other people tell from them. And we, at some point in time, we decided to open our salaries. Everybody knows what others in the company are making. And these 3 steps are they are not normal. I'm not recommending anybody to do this, okay? I'm just saying that because the culture that we created in our company, we went through this journey. By creating this, we realized that transparency was so important that we created a way to work with our customers in terms of digital advertising, completely different. We said to them, look, I'm gonna always tell you exactly the amount of money that goes for the media and the amount of money that we take to manage these campaigns, okay? So this transparency builds trust, and trust is something that it's a bit lacking in this world right now, okay? So final recommendation would be, how can you become a bit more open from tomorrow on, okay? Sorry that it wasn't exactly about digital advertising, but I think it's a good recommendation to go.
I think it's an honest recommendation, not just a good recommendation. If your inner company is not there, what are you selling in the end of the day? Like, you know, exactly. we consult a lot of startups, but in the end, if their original case is not there, their business, what are they trying to solve? It's not there, what are you serving? Anyway, yeah. With that, I will conclude. It was a very fruitful discussion. It enlightened us more. It enlightened us even further on the digital transformation. Mr. Fernando, you are a true inspiration leader. Thank you for sharing the use cases Craftelier in Spain. I think this relates to us a lot. A lot of things that you said relates to us. I think in 2010, what happened in Spain also relates to us today, and hopefully we will come out stronger. It was an honor and pleasure to moderate this session with you. You shared a lot of ideas, valuable information. I'm sure that you inspired the attendees and encouraged them to further adopt the digital transformation wave. Dear attendees, thank you for your interactions. We will take your questions further. Maybe the LED team can also try to go back to your questions. Last but not least, in the name of USAID LED team and Beritech, and my name, Rudy Shushani, we wish you a lovely afternoon and stay safe. Have a good day, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.